Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Our buddy Kent McCausland will be joining us here in just a second. Kent, of course, as you know, prolific shooter for the University of Iowa Hawkeyes men's basketball team, three-point shooter, still is career leader in percentage, a lot of other records. And folks, of all the years Kent has joined me on radio and on television, Kent and I finally got to meet in person at Carver Hawkeye Arena this last March, right after Kent went into the Iowa High School Athletics Hall of Fame in basketball with former Hawkeye player and assistant coach Kirk Koch. So Kent, huge long intro for you, but well-deserved by you. Great to see you, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You nailed them all there too, didn't you? You got the bullet points down and even the high school Hall of Fame, which just happened. So that was a pleasure and obviously an honor to go in with Kirk Koch. We got to be there and give each other a hard time. And I just call him Hall of Famer every time I see him. So that's kind of fun.
HOFer, that's right. So Kent, let's talk about that. Let's go back to your days of your youth before we get into your career at the Iowa Hawkeyes, and then talking about this year's Hawkeye team and where you see college athletics going forward here, NIL and everything else. But we got a lot to get to before that later on in the show in segments 2 and 3. So in this opening segment, let's talk Kent McCausland specifically, your career at Waterloo West High School that got you into the Hall of Fame. So again, congratulations and thanks for joining us. But let's talk about that. Growing up as a kid, your dad being you're a legacy guy like J.R. Koch, your teammate, his son Cooper Koch, now a legacy recruit at Iowa. Did you always think I'm going to be a Hawkeye, or growing up in West Waterloo and playing at West Waterloo High School? How did it happen for you?
Yeah, no, it's kind of funny. I love the Hawkeyes. I always wanted to be a Hawk. I feel like I kind of was a Hawk. I mean, you go and you support the Hawkeyes in Carver Hawkeye Arena, and I did that, for I don't know how many seasons in a row. I feel like I could go on for days on goofy stories around, how I became a Hawk. But I got to tell you, as you learn and you get older and you look back on your career, I never really thought like, I'm just going to be a Hawkeye. That's all I want to do. I just want to be a Hawkeye. It was more like, I just really like shooting the basketball. I just really like playing basketball. And you just did it every day and every day. And I did weird things like get up in the morning at 6:30 a.m. at Waterloo, Iowa, living on Westridge Drive. And my neighbor called the police on me because I was an early riser. So I'd been up for an hour and a half. And I thought, well, I might as well go get some shots up. So I was in the driveway shooting and making a lot of noise. And of course, it's a Saturday morning and the neighbor calls the police, and the police goes to the door and knocks on the door. And my dad answers. And I think he had a smirk on his face, like really, really proud actually that his kid got up at, 6:37 to shoot some hoops. But also like, oh my God, the cops are at my door. What am I going to do about this? So just kind of goofy, right? It wasn't that I just knew I'd be a Hawkeye. I just loved basketball. I just loved shooting. I loved watching it. I wore out these VCR tapes, NBA Superstars. If anybody out there has that sitting in their home, I wore that thing out. I really loved the game and enjoyed it. And as I tell young kids now, just immerse yourself in whatever it is. You never know what it's going to be. You could end up being a coach. You could end up being a manager. Maybe you're not good enough to play, but man, you got really great opportunities if you just immerse yourself in things. And so I was just that type of kid. And then luckily, had a really good group of guys at West High. We were able to make a nice little run and made it to the state tournament, which was a big deal. West Waterloo hadn't been there since the Terry Woods, Anthony Thomas, Chris Gaines teams. And some people remember those from, I think, like the 86 era. And then we made it in 94. So just exciting, to do that for our school. And then to have the opportunity to go be a Hawk after that. And then you really got to make it happen, one way or another. You got to figure out how to play at that level. And that is a Division I is a big time level. And I don't know that every parent, every kid understands that. They're trying to play AAU ball and travel around the country doing that in the summertime. I know it's a goal for a lot of people, but I would say focus more on the everyday habit than focusing on trying to get the scholarship. I'd say focus on trying to get better every day, and then everything will fall into place.
Yeah, let the chips fall where they may. Great advice. And viewers, and just so you know, Kent and I talked off the air. We're trying to make it work. I don't want to make any promises, but would love to have some of your former Hawkeye teammates, J.R. Koch, as I mentioned him earlier, his son Cooper on the Hawkeye team, they were your teammates at Iowa, as well as Ryan Bowen, our buddy Jess Settles, who's been on this show forever, and man, the big things that, Ryan is doing with the Nuggets, and you were all over social media last summer when the Nuggets won the title, and, Ryan is in the front office there, and what a great NBA career he's had post his playing NBA days, and then now as an executive in the NBA. But folks, as you see, Kent is still in the Waterloo area. Kent McCausland, PDCM Insurance, the company that he and his dad, Mac, they work together. And man, I can't believe it's already been as long as it has been since your dad, Mac, passed away.
The Macker. What can you say about him? He's passed away now, 2022, February 5th of 2022. He passed away, and unexpected, and so obviously very difficult. But I always tell people it's hard to be too sad when a guy lives all 75 the way he did. I mean, that guy got after life and had fun and left his mark, right? And I think a lot of Hawkeye fans really love those days, right? The 3 channels on TV,
absolutely,
25 channels on TV, and Mac and Larry doing a game, and you knew what night it'd be on at 7 p.m. and there they are, right? And they just were in your living room, and you just got to know them, and so people just felt like, well, Mac and Larry are just like family, they're just that way. And so I think for a long time, many people just I think just assumed or thought that they knew Mac or they just walk up to him, start talking, and he loved it. I mean, that's just what he was. He's just a people person. He loved to talk about the Hawks and to give a little scoop here and there. And so I grew up with that. And we talk about basketball, and we talk about the Hawks and everything. And I think he just always wanted to get back. 1980 was a big time for him. Philadelphia,
yeah.
they go to the Final Four. And I really think he thought at some point we're going to get back to the Final Four. And it's just kind of sad, to think that they didn't. And at the same time, I think, maybe above and beyond his expectations that his son was going to be able to help a team make it to the Sweet 16. And some people think we were right there against UConn, and we were. We had a couple opportunities that momentum goes one way or the other. Connecticut was extremely good that year, but man, we were right there. And man, would that have been just a thrill? And it was still a thrill playing for him,
yeah.
and honoring my father that way and everything. But yeah, he full of life, right? If anybody saw him on Ragbri, that guy's full of life, and he just loved everything about it. And he still did UNI basketball and Missouri Valley basketball after his Hawkeye days were over, just because he loved it. He loved the prepping. He loved to get ready. He loved talking to coaches. Hey, what's this new play you guys are doing? What's this wrinkle you guys are doing? And he just was a junkie for the game of basketball. And so that's what I grew up in. I loved it too. So we had that in common. And it was an honor and privilege, obviously, to be his son. But at the same time, I think he had a lot of fun having me as a son, right? So
yes, I just thought it was awesome when you said 2 years, and I'm just going, it can't be 2 years. You were on this program again. You've been on all the years I've been on television, going into season 5 here, and I just find it fascinating that it's been 2 years. You and I were talking about you were preparing for a celebration of life, and as you said, in true Mac McCausland fashion for your dad, Kent, it was a celebration of life. And we were talking about the big party you were going to have in his honor. That was 2 years ago. So, and you've joined me other times since then, but my goodness, the time flies by. And speaking of time flying by, let's take a pause here, go into segment 2, and we'll talk about some of your teammates, your playing days at Iowa. We'll get more in depth into that. And then we'll close out the show for the third and final segment with Kent McCausland today on the whole show, talking about where college athletics are today and moving forward. So he is Kent McCausland, former Iowa Hawkeye, playing great sharpshooter extraordinaire. Kent McCausland, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back with more in just a few moments. Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Our buddy Kent McCausland joining us. Kent, former Hawkeye sharpshooter. We record this on Wednesday afternoon, July 10th. So Kent, I preface the date always when we record because a lot can change by the time this airs or people see it online after the fact. DaveO'HaraSports.com if they missed it on statewide television. But what I love, Kent, is it hasn't changed over the years with your dad and you and Tom Davis. Now with J.R. Koch, your former Hawkeye teammate, and his son Cooper Koch, and everybody was a buzz in the state media, sports, talking about, Iowa had an open practice this last Monday, July 8th, and open practice. And Cooper's dad, J.R., called you this morning, friend to friend, and said, hey, Kent, what are you hearing? Did you go to practice on Monday? Because Cooper won't tell me anything. And you're like, yeah, I was the same way with my dad. And it was even more exacerbated for you because your dad was a broadcaster. Take us through that little comparison between being a legacy player or a legacy recruit and then your dad being a former Hawk.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a funny story coming around, but I've known Cooper since he was born, right? So I mean, kind of cool to watch this happen, and I was, trying to be as involved in the recruiting process as I could be, as a friend, and just, hey buddy, you come here, I can't wait to go on some road trips with your dad. I can't wait to go to Carver and watch you. Just a very cool feeling to know that, a legacy recruit, and he's a big time player. So this is not some gift, and highly ranked. He can flat shoot it. Now, whether he can do the other things or not, who knows? But you're talking about a 6'9" kid that can move and can play. And defense has always got to be something that comes along, right? And so then I think they're hoping, okay, what kind of, size and defense do you have? So a lot of things still at play here, but Cooper's a player, and that's fantastic. And I get to have fun with JR on it. And I was talking to JR this morning. He just called me out of nowhere and just kind of said, hey, have you been to practice, or you've been to, anything? And I was like, no, I just haven't had a chance to get down there yet, or whatever. And he just said, well, I heard Coop played pretty good. I called him, and he said, yeah, I did this and that, and but that's about it, Dad. And then JR was just like, come on, you got to give me something, like what? And Cooper just, nah, it's just it's another day, right? Like I said earlier, every day you're just trying to get better. But to Coop, that's like, hey, that was a step that I expected to take. That's a step that I want to take. I'm not going to rave about it to my dad or to anyone for that matter. Like you just grow and mature. And so I think that's great that he's having one of those practices so early in his career where you have those light bulb moments, because they don't happen in your first year all the time. And they didn't happen for me in my first year. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But there were some times when you were just like, oh, I got this, I can play. So, just excited for him. And it made me flash back to thinking about my dad and I, we'd talk about everything. He'd give me all the scoop, and he'd tell me everything that was going on in Hawkeye basketball. And I get to go to school and tell someone and whatever. Felt like I was pretty cool. Well, and unexpected, to be honest. People thought I knew everything. So anyway, then as a player, you keep it within the team. You don't let outsiders know a lot of information. And so I never told my dad anything. And to me, he was a media guy. Every once in a while, he might be, dad, but most of the time he was media Mac. And so I wouldn't want to tell him something that all of a sudden he accidentally slips on air, or ask Coach Davis about it. And then Coach Davis is like, how'd you know that? I never wanted that. So it would happen the other way. I didn't say a word. And then Dr. Tom would be like, well, hasn't Kent told you this? And then of course my dad would be like, no, he doesn't tell me anything. So then I felt good, like, okay, I'm doing this right, because you got to earn your trust of your coaching staff, your players, and everything that goes into it. So felt like I did that, and he never really got much of anything out of me. So maybe later I'll tell him everything, and I did after the playing days were over. But it's not like he got instant access, man. He's got to work for it just like he did before.
I love it. The circle of life, to borrow from the Lion King there, where, it is, you're right. And so folks, viewers at home, you're not the only parents that go through that. It's probably even more, as we said earlier, probably more exacerbated if you're on a team like that. Like you said, Kent, you don't want to be known as the guy who's telling trade secrets outside the locker room. So I love you taking us through those playing days and the tight-knit group, the locker room, and how exciting the days ahead for us Hawkeye fans when you look and see, as you mentioned, with Cooper Koch being 6'9", and the kid can flat out play, as you mentioned. It's not just we'll do a charity case and bring him in because he's J.R. Koch's kid. He can play. Now you put him with Owen Freeman, a big kid, 6'9", 6'10", 6'11" range. Owen talked about, changing his game this summer, putting on 20 good pounds of strength and muscle. And, you got the former or last year's freshman of the year in the Big Ten. So now, Owen Freeman's loaded for bear. He's got the extra bulk and weight. He's now worked on his outside game, handling the ball away from the basket. You put some stress on that defense, Kent, and you get young guys to produce, and they can stretch the floor. And you and I have talked about this off the air, so let's bring it on here. All this great recruiting class, and we won't get into the whole group with Fran at this show, but you take a look at last year's freshmen, how they contributed, and Josh Dix being injured his freshman year and still playing well, having a very good sophomore year. Got a lot of younger guys, underclassmen, Kent. Gives great cause for excitement in Hawkeye land for men's basketball. My goodness, Kent, you talk about big guys that can play all 5 positions, and different from your playing days where you redshirted your freshman year. These freshmen coming in now are road ready, my friend.
Yeah, I look at this team and I'm extremely excited, and I kind of get a little worked up about people who want to, rag on Coach McCaffery and how he's coached or what he's done. I look at last year's team, and to be within probably a win of getting to the NCAA tournament, you beat Illinois at home. You got a really good shot of making a case to go to the NCAA tournament. You see what happens in the Big Ten tournament at that point. You never know, but to be in that position with that inexperienced team, really players playing in not only inexperienced because you got freshmen and sophomores, but inexperienced because you are asking Peyton Sanford, Josh Dix, Tony Perkins to really like elevate their game to a level where they haven't even done it yet, and they got to figure it out. I thought he did a fantastic job with this group last year, and then to see what's the next step now? I mean, I think Josh Dix is a bona fide player in the country. I think he's a big time talent, and if he stays healthy, you see the difference between it takes time to get healthy. It takes time to you break your leg and to get back to normal. And so I think he's a big time player. Peyton Sanford, I don't know that Peyton thought he was going to be a 19 a game type of guy coming into Iowa, but he's found out, you know what, I can shoot it and I can do different things. I'm pretty good size. I can pass. I can rebound. What else can I add? And now he has an opportunity this summer to go within the NBA ranks and get really good competition and really good coaching. That only elevates your game and elevates your leadership, I think, heading into a season like this. Now, everybody on that team says, well, that guy's been, to some pretty good camps, played some pretty good competition. He's going to have some good stories. He should raise the level of competition and practice. And now you say, Freeman is going to be a beast, and you add Harding and all these little pockets. I think Price Sanford's going to be a very good player. You look at his shot, it looks great. So he just takes time to learn these things. You add Cooper Koch. I just think, and the new individuals, that we added in the transfer portal, I think this team's could be really good. I'm not going to say, hey, we're going to win the Big Ten and go to the Final Four, but God, I really have a trouble with people giving Coach McCaffery a hard time when he's really putting this team together. And we talk about NIL, we talk about all the different teams within the Big Ten in the country that have huge, gross budgets to go find people and pay them. We're not doing that. We're trying to do it the best way we can. We're trying to do it in a smart way. And we want this group to be, cohesive. And I think they are. From what I'm hearing, they're a good group and they work hard. So I'm very excited about the future. And I think Fran McCaffery's doing a very good job. Yes, have we not made the big run in the tournament and made a Sweet 16 or made an Elite Eight? Yes. Are there teams that have no business making a run to the Sweet 16 because somebody gets beat in front of them and now they get to play a 12 seed to get to the Sweet 16? Happens all the time. This is the world that we live in the NCAA tournament, where we only look back and see how far you made it. It's just not reality as far as what he's done from a coaching perspective in a very tough conference. So, that's me on my soapbox a little bit, and maybe it's a little black and gold colored glasses on it. But to be honest, I just think they're doing a great job, and unfortunately have just not made that run that would make us all get pretty excited. And we all want that, trust me, but nobody wants it more than the kids do and the staff. So that's how I look at it.
Well, let's take a pause here. We'll come back and close the show off for segment 3. He's Kent McCausland, kind enough to join us for the whole show. I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back with more in just a few moments. Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Our buddy Kent McCausland, kind enough to join us throughout the whole program. Kent, former Iowa Hawkeye sharpshooting great, still a leader in career three-point shooting percentage. As Ken and I have talked about throughout this show, legacy recruit, Dad Mac McCausland, former Hawkeye broadcasting great, former Hawkeye himself. And then Mac passed away a couple of years ago, but Kent and I just telling great stories about his dad. And yeah, when we talk about Kent's television show on Mediacom, the Connections channel, starting usually in October, November, end of football, going into basketball preseason, and then going through March Madness. Kent with Rob Brooks and Kevin Lehman and other guests, but you started that show. It was you and Rob Brooks and your dad Mac, and it was Black and Gold Breakdown, and love it, Wednesday nights. And it's just fascinating to me to talk to you off camera and then bring it on camera about the inner workings of the game and the players, the relationships, the locker room. Let's talk about NIL. And we're talking about the games today, men and women, no matter what the sport. Could be an issue. We've talked about this with former Hawkeye players on this show, football with Parker Hesse and others. Not just NIL, Kent, but the transfer portal and the rules. And you can go here and go there, and at the drop of a hat, a snap of a finger, I'm going to go here. And we talked about what that could potentially do to a locker room. I'm curious what your thoughts are as a former playing great 25 years ago. And even the guys that played 5 years ago, like Parker Hesse in college, are in the NFL now, and Parker now with the Lions, formerly of the Falcons. And but he doesn't, they're not bitter. You're not bitter. But could have happened for you 25 years ago if they had NIL. But I'm just curious what your thoughts are about where you see this going and how it can affect the locker room and a family relationship with NIL and transfer portal.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to have some organized thoughts around this because it's messy. And so it's hard to have organized thoughts about it. In my opinion, the NCAA did not get ahead of this the way they should have. They should have been way ahead of this 10 years ago to figure out how to pay athletes in a way that made sense and just use your TV rights, use all the money that's coming in and then pay them so that you don't open Pandora's box of NIL and what does that really mean? And then also the transfer portal happens at the same time. So essentially you're a free agent every year, which we don't even have in NFL or NBA or NHL or anywhere. You don't have every year that you can just put yourself on the market and go see what happens. And there's so much misinformation. You watch Twitter, you watch ESPN, like, did Coleman Hawkins really get $2 million to go to Kansas State? Well, I don't know. Did so-and-so really get offered 800 grand to go to where? I don't know, but that's what you see. And so it becomes reality because you watch it and you see it on Twitter. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but what I do know is Coleman Hawkins did get a lot of money to go to Kansas State, and Kansas State is not going to go to the Final Four, in my opinion. They're going to be a nice team, but you're going to pay all that money just to be a nice team? It doesn't make sense to me. And so, then you talk about how does it affect a locker room? Well, I think that is, case by case basis on who is making the money, how are they making the money? Are they the best performer? Do they come to work every day or not? If Andre Woolridge, to me, could have been paid whatever, because Andre Woolridge was unbelievable, in my opinion. Yeah. Like, of course he should be paid something. And of course I would love to still play with him. Now, if someone else would have gotten paid just because we brought them in from somewhere, or they were a big name and you gave them a bunch of money, but there was no work ethic and I didn't trust that person and I didn't believe in that they were going to be there, at the end of the year when we need them the most. How does that affect? So it's different. You've got two different situations where one person really deserves it and you'll follow that person, and another person, maybe it doesn't work. So it's all very fluid. And I think it's really the coaching challenge of what we're seeing in basketball and football is how do you keep that locker room together? And how do you bring a piece in and pay them X? And how do you let a piece go because you would have had to pay them this amount, but do they really fit into what you want to do now? So maybe we let them go. But to the public, you're letting that guy go. He's like really good. Like, we should keep him. That'd be great if we just kept him. Well, they're in the locker room. They are in the gym. If we keep him, it's going to affect 4 other guys, and that's going to be a problem. So coaching is now more about how do you put the puzzle pieces together to make it all make sense, and then go out and work together as a team. And I think that is really difficult. And you throw on top of it, this is maybe the hardest part, literally recruiting your own players as the year is going on. Like, Owen Freeman, who knows? He could have gone to different places. We don't know. Maybe he just wants to be a Hawk. That's great. But you want to coach him hard. You want to make him a better basketball player, but you also you don't want to lose him either. You don't want to run him off. I mean, how many guys would have taken the money and left Bobby Knight because Bobby Knight's just too much for me? I can't handle this. I'm out of here. And I can get 200 grand from Indiana State, or I can go wherever else, and get out of here. So there is so much that's going on. I think I give a lot of credit to coaching staffs. We've seen, I think, some of those older coaches retire, the Roy Williams, the Mike Krzyzewskis, the Jay Wrights. They're like, we're out of here. This is crazy. And then I think it's going to be that next generation of coaches that just kind of understands it a little bit. They're okay with it. They play the game, quote unquote, the game a little bit better. So you know, I don't know if that even answers your question. It's just some of the things that have kind of gone through my head of just how do you make this happen? And then now you're going to put it on. I think eventually it's all going to be pulled into the universities anyway, and then they're going to have a staff that kind of figures it out. It's sport by sport. It's going to be a lot of conversations and things that have to happen. And it's the wild, wild west. So anything kind of goes right now, which is pretty wild.
So for Kent McCausland, former Iowa Hawkeye sharpshooting great, I'm Dave O'Hara. Thanks again to Greg Kajewski and you, the viewers. That's all from us at Hawkeye. Thanks to all of you.